Hi everyone!
Welcome to In Our Defence, the podcast designed to give you all the advice you need whilst going through the trials and tribulations of life to and at the bar. Now, we wouldn't be a legal podcast if we didn't give you a legal disclaimer.
Whilst every effort has been made to ensure the content of this podcast is accurate, none of it is to be taken as professional advice in any capacity. We might talk a lot about a lot of things in a lot of detail, but in our defence, we are still learning too.
Hi everyone, welcome back to In Our Defence, week 2, second episode. Just think we should start out by saying a massive thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, commented, watched, listened. We could not have predicted such a fantastic response. We are blown away. I mean, you are all fantastic and just thank you so much.
Absolutely. I can currently see the current status of our YouTube video is at, drumroll please, 475 views on the day that we're filming this. So that is just absolutely insane. We genuinely both thought we were going to get 5 views.
Honestly, it's just...
So it's absolutely mental. So thank you so much, everybody that's tuned in, everybody that's shared, that has sort of liked or passed it on. We're so appreciative and thank you for helping us make our little hobby a reality. So.
And thank you so much to those people who have messaged us either via email or on YouTube or sliding into our DMs on Instagram. We see what you're saying. We want to listen. We're listening. We're in our defence. We're learning here. We want to make this pod as relatable, as interactive, and everything as possible. So thank you so much. Keep them coming, and we'll do our best to make sure that anything you want us to raise, we will do.
Yeah. Also, I would just like to touch on the fact that our first episode is now on Spotify. So that's super exciting. I know a lot of people like to listen on Spotify if they're in the car or if they're on a walk or somewhere where they have to listen offline, which you can obviously do on Spotify podcasts. So if you guys would like to listen on Spotify, I will leave a link to our profile in the bio so you can go and listen there.
You'll also see, guys, that me and India are not together tonight anymore. We are at our respective homes. India is now back in Norfolk, and we are 3 long hours apart. So we are doing this all remotely, all via a platform. So bear with us, okay?
Yeah, this is our first time it's the second time we've ever filmed a podcast, and this is the first time we've done it remotely. So bear with us. There might be some little things that go wrong every now and then, and we're going to try and get through it as smoothly as possible. So yeah, we hope you enjoy.
Oh, on that note, guys, if there is anyone out there who would want to create a little jingle for us...
Get in the studio, get your producer to make us a jingle. I'm going high here. I'm going for like the Adeles of the world.
Adele,
let us know. Make a jingle for us, Adele.
Come on, gotta aim high. So in terms of the structure this week, guys, the main focus of this episode is going to be on A-levels. Specifically, should you take law at A-level? Does it matter what A-levels you do take? And does your A-level grade dictate your future as a barrister?
Yeah. Also, we're going to be going on to discuss university degrees. So which university should you choose, how to choose the university that's best for you, and whether you should do a dual degree or a straight degree. So I did law with criminology. That is a dual degree because it's 2 topics, and Lou did straight law. So obviously that's a straight degree. So we're going to be talking about our perspectives on that as well. So we're also going to be talking about personal statements as well. So me and Lou have both done our fair share of personal statements, cover letters, applications over the years, and we've both garnered quite a bit of advice from people about what works and what doesn't. So we're going to be giving you guys a little bit of advice about that as well. So stay tuned if you think any of that is going to be of interest to you.
So before we get into that, guys, we're going to talk about our Best of the Week segment, where we will discuss what's been in the law news this week. Just before we get into our Best of the Week, guys, just a very slight trigger warning that the content we are going to be discussing this week may be slightly triggering for some of you. We are going to be touching on mental health and the sensitive issues around mental health. It's really important that if you have been affected by anything that we're talking about in today's episode, or you are struggling with your mental health, that you seek professional help and address it as soon as you possibly can. What we'll do is we'll leave some links and numbers in the show notes or the bio, wherever you're watching this.
We will be linking things below for you guys. So if there's something that you feel like you're really struggling with, please seek help. We are only giving our advice on the internet. So yes, please seek professional help.
We're not professionals. Go and get help. Look after your mental health.
Absolutely. So guys, we are going to be moving on to discuss our best of the week. So as we said in episode 1, every week we're going to take the best of the Inner Temple Daily Digest. So we are filming this on a Wednesday, so we've only had 3 days of Daily Digests, but I have picked a topic that I think will be really prevalent to cover in today's episode. And this is a joint effort today. We're both going to be talking about the same topic, but maybe in the future we might have 2 topics to cover as the episodes start to get a bit longer, maybe. Today, the topic that I've picked was from Monday's Daily Digest. And if you guys don't have access to that, I will leave a link in the bio below to the webpage. It's a BBC News article and it is headed, "The law needs to catch up on student mental health." And I will put a picture on the screen, I think it's this side, in between me and Lou, of the news article. As you guys saw from the last episode, my editing skills have greatly improved. But as Lou said, it is obviously a sensitive topic. So if you guys don't feel like this is something you want to listen to, just skip on a couple of minutes to the crux of the podcast. But I just thought this would be a really interesting topic to cover today because we are obviously talking about A-levels and university degrees. And essentially, the body of the BBC News article states that the High Court is considering whether universities owe a duty of care to their students. I thought that would be a great topic to cover because we've obviously, me and Lou have both been through university. We've both seen firsthand how much that can take a toll on your mental health. There is so much pressure when you're at university, not only social pressures from friends, meeting new people, you may be living in a totally new city, living on your own for the first time without your family around you. And there's also a lot of pressure academically as well to be fulfilling your assignments on time, to make sure you know what's going on, to be studying and revising. I think it's really important to take care of your mental health. And I do think that it's something that should be taken more seriously as society progresses, as mental health is becoming destigmatized and people are becoming more accepting. I think it's definitely something that should be inputted into universities more seriously.
It's interesting that it's taken so long for the judiciary and any sort of legislation generally.
The High Court is obviously examining whether universities should owe a duty of care. And as with any legal case or anything, there is obviously 2 arguments. I think on the one hand, obviously, it's super important, and from my perspective, universities should owe a duty of care to their students. Because whilst you're at university, you are under the university's care. It's like being at school, isn't it? Being at high school, the high school has a duty of care for you. So why does that not extend to universities? And I certainly think it should. But then you have the other side of things, which says how many students there are at university. You know, some universities have thousands and thousands of students, and how is it possible to regulate every single one of those students? And I think that's a really fine line. Universities definitely need to be putting more in place to be able to deal with that volume of students and that volume of students' mental health.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you, but I think
no, go for it.
I think it's interesting that most universities you'll find offer some sort of free physical health, such as a gym or, sports, and yet there seems to be little, as far as I'm aware, resources or facilities to improve and help your mental health.
I think that especially, and I'm talking for myself, not me and Lou has her own perspective on this, but I think that I've been super, super lucky and really privileged not to have had need for those services at the uni. But I know a hell of a lot of people that have needed to use that and have maybe found in lots of instances that there just isn't enough to cater for every single student in the university. And I think that's really difficult. How can you support thousands and thousands of students individually? This Best of the Week has come off of the back of a case it's absolutely horrible and so heartbreaking. You can't even imagine, but a girl called Natasha Abrahart, I think I've said that correctly, I'm so sorry if I haven't. She unfortunately took her own life at university, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. It's out of comprehension, really. And there's now an inquiry into what exactly falls under the university's remit legally of their duty of care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good bit of progression, especially in the legal world, into acceptance of mental health.
I think it's going to be tricky and interesting to watch.
Absolutely. That's our opinions on the Best of the Week this week, guys. Obviously, as we go through, we will be finding even more interesting topics, some that are a little bit less sensitive, because I know that it can be a tricky topic to talk about, especially if you are struggling with your mental health. So
again, guys, if you are struggling with your mental health, then do address it. You're not alone, and please go and reach out to those around you.
Now, guys, we're going to be going on to talk about the crux of the podcast. So hopefully on a bit more of a positive note, maybe not, because we're talking about mine and Lou's A-level grades. So
moving on then to A-levels, which is a distant memory for me because I am 28 years old. And that's a long time ago.
It's even distant for me, and I'm only 23.
No, sorry, India, absolutely not. So yeah, I did take law. I took law, psychology, and English language. I didn't do well at all, guys. I touched on this in the last episode. I'd gone through school. My GCSEs were good. I got good grades in my GCSEs. I enjoyed school. But when I got to college and I started to kind of get that little bit more independence that you get from school, obviously all the way through school you're spoon-fed, and you are in college to a certain extent as well, but less so. And I think as soon as I sort of experienced with that independent learning at such a young age, I just wasn't as engaged as I should have been. I didn't apply myself as I should have been, and ultimately I didn't get the grades I wanted to
or deserved, because you're a very smart cookie.
That's very kind of you to say, but I don't think I did deserve them at the time because I wasn't working as I should have done. My priorities were wrong and I wasn't ready.
And I think it takes a level of self-growth to be able to look back at that and be like, that wasn't my finest moment, and you've come a long way since then, sort of thing.
In terms of, has that hindered me in my, I mean, I've just been called to the bar. So
absolutely. You tell them, Lou.
I wasn't ready at that age to make the emotional, the educational, the financial investment in myself to go to university to study such a huge topic when I just wasn't able to commit myself fully. I mean, even if I had wanted to go to uni at 18, I wouldn't have been able to because I didn't get the grades. My journey, although it's not the conventional route and it is different, I wouldn't change it. I think everything happens for a reason, and I think
absolutely
it's worked out for me. In terms of, do you need to do law at A-level? No, I don't think you do. In fact, I actually heard some people say that some universities don't, again, please don't quote me on this, guys, but some universities don't like you to have law at A-level.
Yeah. On that topic, I just want to add in as well that when I was choosing my A-levels, as I told you guys in episode 1, I did my first mini pupillage at age 15. And when I was discussing with a couple of the barristers whether they thought I should do law, whether that was important, a lot of them said no. In fact, a lot of them said don't do it, which I was quite surprised about. A lot of them said that because it is so similar in content to the basics of what you learn at your degree, by the time you come to do it at your degree, you're going to be bored out of your mind because you will have already done it. On the other hand, I would have thought that that would have been a real benefit if I'd have done it at A level and then went on to do it at my degree. If I had already known the basics, I would have been flying well ahead. So what do you think, Lou? What's your perspective on that? Because obviously you did law at A level and then did a law degree. So what's your perspective?
I mean, to be clear, we're not saying don't not do law at A level. Obviously,
Oh my God, no.
if that's what you want to do, please go and do it. We're not saying that. I think it's more a case of, do you have to do it? No, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I suppose it did help me to an extent, but I had such a big gap between going to do my A levels and going to uni. Whilst I remembered Donahue and Stevenson, because everyone remembers Donahue and Stevenson, and you know, Crown and Brown, you know, everyone remembers all of that. I think it's difficult for me to say because I had such a gap. And when I went to university, I was going with a complete fresh mindset anyway.
Can I just quickly say about Donahue and Stevenson, that has haunted me my whole life.
Oh my goodness.
Can't drink.
I've never drank ginger beer.
I can't drink canned drinks.
I know.
No. Every single time I drink a canned drink, and all my friends will attest to this, I have to open it and shake it and check inside first. It's haunted me for life. And if you guys don't know Donahue and Stevenson, I was going to say look it up, but maybe don't, because it will haunt you for life. So, on the other hand, I didn't do law at A level. As I said before, everything that I've been told sort of made me think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should do something else that I thought I would enjoy more. Turns out I didn't enjoy it. So I did psychology, sociology, and English language. And I always knew that I wanted to do sociology because I loved it. I also did English language because I think I've got quite a good grasp of the English language. I feel like I always have been quite good at English. So I thought I'd be brilliant at that. I was not. And I chose psychology. I chose psychology because it was a new subject. I'd never done it before, so I was super excited. I absolutely hated psychology. For me personally, my brain is not maths or science based. I am much more creative, which is odd because I'm going into law. For me, the maths and science portion of psychology ruined the whole thing for me. So I was originally predicted a U in psychology. So I was not doing well. So when I was choosing to get into uni, I was like having a U on my UCAS, which was awful. He upped it to a C for me, and I ended up getting a B. I worked my bum off for that B, so I'm super proud of that. So I obviously didn't take law. I don't think it hindered me in any way not taking law because I went into my law degree with a completely fresh mind. I didn't have any sort of preconceived notions of anything about the law. It was completely new for me, but maybe that's just how my brain works. Your brain might work better having that basis and that structure going into it already, and if that's the case, definitely think about doing law. I got BBC. I mean, I was proud of them at the time. Looking back, I definitely could have got better, but BBC are good grades, good solid grades. Yeah, I don't think that's hindered me in any way at all. Obviously, try your very, very hardest at A level. I mean, it's, you know, they put so much pressure on you. Again, going back to the mental health topic, it's a lot of pressure. I certainly found it very difficult. And you think that your life's ending if you don't get the grades that you want, but it's not. It's really not. Like Lou said, she didn't get the grades to get into uni originally, but then when she came to, I mean, we'll touch on this in a minute, but when she came to going to uni, you got an unconditional offer, didn't you, Lou?
I did, yeah. I received an unconditional offer when I applied for university. This was because I applied when I was 22. In fact, I'm just going to say, I made an error. In the previous episode, I said I started in 2017. I didn't. It should say 2018. I'm sorry. I'm not lying to you guys.
Don't hold it against her.
Don't hold it against her. 2018 is when I started. But ultimately, it was deemed that I had enough work experience and life experience at the age of 21/22 that my A levels it wasn't the deciding factor like it is when you're 18.
They weren't detrimental to your application.
Exactly. So when I applied, all I had to do was a personal statement.
Well, that leads us perfectly onto our next segment, which is talking about our personal statement advice. As I said at the start, me and Lou have both done our fair share of over our years of doing mini pupillage, you obviously have to make an application and a cover letter for mini pupillage, applying for jobs, personal statements for uni, etc. So we've garnered a little bit of advice that we think would be really helpful for you guys who are going through the process. I personally really struggle, and this might be something that you've noticed throughout the podcast already, but I really struggle with using flowery language. And what I mean by that is I tend to embellish what I'm saying with big words just because I think it sounds better. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't. When me and Lou went on our residential weekend with Lincoln's Inn to Leeds, that is a whole episode in itself because we have some amazing and hilarious stories from that weekend.
Yeah, we do.
But when we went there, we had the opportunity to give a pupillage application, which was overseen by a barrister, and they gave us some advice. He had a look over my application and he gave me some really good advice. But ultimately he said, you just sound like you're trying to sound like a barrister. So you're not being authentic or sort of genuine to yourself. I think that's very accurate. That's something that I really struggle with, and I always have, is just sort of putting on it's like when you ring somebody on the phone on customer service and you put on your customer service voice.
Yeah.
That's what I tend to do. That's something that I think is really important, is don't flower it up. Don't embellish it. Be your genuine. Obviously, don't get it grammatically wrong and spell things wrong. Make sure you're being grammatically correct. Just don't flower it up or embellish it.
Yeah, be yourself. And I think what you're trying to say is prospective employers and universities, they'll see through that. They'll
Absolutely
know. Obviously ensure that your tone is correct and and you're professional, but ultimately be yourself.
Yeah. On that same topic, I just also want to touch on something I saw on Instagram today. So I follow this lady on Instagram. I think her Instagram is by Lucy Cole. I will put it on the screen in the middle, so you can go and check it out. But she's a legal professional. She's had an amazing career. She's got a lot of really good advice. And I saw that she put something on earlier about applications and the STAR technique. So again, I'll put it up on the screen, the STAR technique, and it's STAR with 2 R's. So the S stands for situation, the T stands for task, the A stands for action, the first R stands for result, the 5th R stands for reason. This is a really good technique to remember when you're doing personal statements or doing pupillage applications or anything of the sort. If you sort of follow this technique and this guideline, it's really well structured, I think, personally, and I think it really takes you through bit by bit. Make sure you cover every single scenario. So I thought that was really good, and I thought that would be something good to add in. Another thing that she put on the Instagram was a lot of people tend to ignore the 5th R, which is reason, which is arguably the most important one, as they've gone through all the other 4 and they think they've given a comprehensive answer, but in reality, you need to give the reason for why you're putting what you're putting and why you've said what you've said. Personally, for me and Lou, that will be the reason why we're interested in that Chambers when we apply for pupillage, the reason why we're interested in being a barrister, anything like that. But for those of you who are applying to university, that will be why you want to go to that uni, why you want to study the course, and it's really important to get that in there. So
it's also quite a versatile technique as well, because I know that a lot of job interviews use it as well.
So yeah, definitely go follow Lucy Cole, I think is her name, on Instagram as well. She's really good. She posts a lot of really informative and really brilliant advice, so definitely go and follow her.
The other thing I was going to say about personal statements, guys, is obviously it has to be your own personal statement. It has to come from you. But talking about yourself and bigging yourself up, I know is something I struggle with. It's something that's quite awkward and can be quite uncomfortable. And so when I was writing my personal statement, I got those around me to kind of look at it, read it, and I sent it to a friend of mine and I said, oh, like, here's my personal statement, like, what do you think? And they turned around and just said, this isn't you. You've not. What about this, and this? It's difficult sometimes to see what you've done when you're talking about yourself. But I know if I talk about my friends and my family, I could big them up till the cows come home. When it's like yourself, it's tricky. So I think reach out to those around you and those who really know you. Say, can you give me some examples of when I've done this? Can you help me? Obviously, it has to be your statement, of course. But lean on those around you to.
I mean, I know that if Lou was to ask me to write her personal statement for her, I could write her an amazing personal statement about her.
Exactly. Likewise.
It is difficult to big yourself up, but what I like to do is just make a big document of everything you've ever done in your life. It can be the most minute, almost most mundane thing in your perspective, but it could really count. It could really count for something. So just write everything down you've ever done, and then you can sort of pick apart which you think are most relevant. I totally agree with you. It's really hard to big yourself up, but just go for it. So after you have picked your A-levels, completed your A-levels, and I hope you guys got the best grades possible and you worked really hard.
It doesn't matter if you didn't.
Exactly, but after that point, you will then be obviously looking at university and which university to go to. Obviously, me and Lou both went to Nottingham Trent. I always knew I wanted to go to a uni in Nottingham because it was near my family. It's not overly close from where I live. And I ended up going to Nottingham Trent because it did the degree I wanted to do, which is law with criminology. I knew I wanted to do a dual degree. Essentially, I did law for 60% of the degree and criminology for 40% of the degree. And that was always what I wanted to do because I was really interested in criminology and the psychology behind criminal minds and everything, which is interesting because I hated psychology. But anyway, so I also went to a couple of open days, and obviously when applying to uni, I got my offers through and I didn't get an unconditional for Nottingham Trent because obviously, as I said, my psychology grade was predicted a U. A couple of my friends who were also going to Trent got an unconditional, and you can imagine my heartbreak. I was like, oh my goodness, this is awful. I knew I was going to just have to work that little bit harder to get into uni. And I did it. I got the exact grades I needed to get in, so all was well, but it was a very stressful time of my life. And in terms of my opinion on the dual degree, I loved it. I thought that law is obviously very academically heavy. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of case law you need to know. So having that criminology on the side sort of alleviated that slightly for me. Not to say that criminology is in any way easier, because it's definitely not. It was just a little bit more easy for my brain to process, if you see what I mean.
Did you find that they were quite similar? Like, was there a lot of overlap between the two?
No. And I thought it was going to be more similar because I thought I was going into almost like a criminal law degree. But I absolutely was not. Criminology is, I did drugs and violence, one of my topics. There was all sorts of topics you could pick and all sorts of modules, but it was much more focused around the mind of the criminal, whereas the law portion is much more methodical and it's basically written in black and white in legislation, and the case law, and you have to basically pick it apart. So it was nice actually to have that balance. It was really nice to be able to go between the two. And yeah, so that's my experience with a dual degree. Now, Lou, you did a straight degree, didn't you? So if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so as you guys already know, I went to uni a bit later. I'd already had a taste of work and earning my own money. I didn't want that to stop. I enjoyed working, and so I was slightly more restricted as to where I could apply for because I needed somewhere that could offer me flexible or distance or part-time learning. I considered the Open University, but I actually tried to do something called SILEX through the CPAP, and that was all distance, and I didn't get on with it.
Can you just quickly explain what SILEX is for those who don't know?
Yeah, so SILEX is essentially the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. It's an alternative method to qualify. Essentially, it's done via, I'm not sure if it is the Open Uni or it's similar. I've not explained that very well at all. It was such a long time ago since I did it, and
Sorry to put you on the spot there. But
no, it's fine. I ought to know more, really. That shows how well I got on with it, really. We'll always be honest with you guys.
Absolutely.
So I knew I wanted to go to university. I had to go somewhere that would offer me part-time flexible learning, distance learning, etc. And so I worked in Nottingham, so I looked at University of Nottingham, I looked at Trent, I looked at Lincoln, I looked at Leicester, and Nottingham Trent was the only university that offered me part-time flexible learning. So essentially what that means is I did the straight law degree, which would normally be 3 years. I did it over 4. There was the option to do it over 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years. I chose 4 because I wanted to get it done in the quickest amount of time possible. Yeah. And essentially what you do is, it sounds obvious perhaps, but you take that 3-year course and you stretch it across the duration, or whatever your preferred duration. So in my first year I did 3 core modules. In my second year I did another 3 core modules plus 1 option. In my third year I did the final 2 core modules and 2 options, and then in my final year it was all electives and all options. Amazing. And it worked brilliantly for me because it meant I could work. I was so fortunate that the CPS, I mean, they were brilliant to me. They let me reduce my hours right down so I could still earn. It's not lost on me that the way I've done things have been different, and I have worked very hard, but Absolutely. I have also been very lucky and very fortunate to have had unwavering support from my family and CPS.
Can I just add that if you guys are deciding whether to go to uni, what course to study and which uni to go to, if what Lou's just been discussing sounds like something that would be of interest to you, definitely have a little look and see which universities offer flexible learning. I mean, as we know, Trent obviously does, but that might be something that works really well for you as well. I mean, it worked perfectly for Lou and her circumstances at the time. So yeah, definitely get on and have a little look and see which unis offer that.
So before we wrap it up and call it a day there, guys, we've had a couple of messages on Instagram and on YouTube asking about content and what we're going to be covering. We've had a few asking about when we'll be talking about bar course specific revision techniques and, coping mechanisms for the litigation exams. We know they're coming. We know they're looming. We know that you'll be stressed about it.
I've just been through it, guys. I understand.
We get it. Yeah. We are going to go through it with you. We are going to be there with you. We'll be your support from afar.
We'll be your guiding light through everything litigation.
You have our deepest sympathies. So we are going to do that in the new year. Our plan is to get that out in full in the new year. I suppose for those wanting an immediate response, start your revision in this Christmas break. If you haven't already, start consolidating, start revising, start going over things. It will just make it easier when it comes to revising.
Definitely. I think that's one thing in retrospect I wish I would have done, is just start making notes at the very, very earliest point you can. So when we finished our internal bar exams, so the drafting, advocacy, etc., ethics, we had 3 weeks between our last internal exam to the litigation exams, and I tried to cram all my revision into those 3 weeks. And I knew I wanted to make a textbook from top to bottom of every single module on the syllabus. It was not doable in the time. I worked my bum off morning, noon and night to get it done, and I still couldn't do it. So take that from me. Do as I say, not as I do. Because please don't do that. It will just make you so stressed out. Start revising now, please.
Yeah, just start. And even if it doesn't have to be loads. It can just be start going over your notes, just familiarising yourself with hearsay rules and Part 36 offers. Just start to head around them if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Another thing, and again we'll probably talk about this in more detail, but I started a little revision group last year.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
India was a member of the revision group. Clearly it was so memorable. She's obviously forgotten. And essentially each week we take it in turns to kind of cover a topic. Each person would take a subject and we'd sort of talk about it, and it worked for us.
And that's really good because we were able to discuss it with each other, whereas sometimes you can read it and you can read a clause of the White Book 17 times and you still will not know what it's saying. So sometimes I would be like to Lou, oh, do you interpret this that way? And she'd be like, no, actually I interpret it that way. And I'd be like, oh.
And then somewhere in between us would be the actual answer.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it was more likely that Lou was on the right track than me. I always tend to interpret things the wrong way. I don't know why. I've always been like that. But anyway, it's getting a bit deep now, guys.
Let's wrap this up. So I think we'll probably leave things there for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the law degree itself. So sort of moving away from A-levels and choosing a uni to being at uni and the effect that will have on you as you progress through your law career.
And we'll be discussing the different modules that we took and the different module options there are out there and which modules you should pick for which practice area, because I know in particular there's so many business modules. There was commercial, business.
I didn't pick one.
One business one?
Nope. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we'll discuss that next week. But we'll be talking about moving away from home, Freshers Week, all that jazz, and we'll be talking about in general how to tackle a law degree because it's hefty stuff. So if you guys are interested in next week's episode, please tune in again. We hope we get the same level of reception that we've been getting. That will be really, really good. As we said in the previous episode, if you guys do have any questions, please email us. Our email will be in the bio and I will also put it on the screen because I'm an editing pro now. Maybe I should add that to my CV. If there's anything you guys want to know, definitely either message us on Instagram or send us an email.
Absolutely. My dog Winnie's just joined us in the background as well now, so I'm so sorry. She's our third member. Mascot. She's the third co-host that's just kind of here.
And don't forget P as well. P on the bed.
Oh, can you see P as well?
Yeah, I can see P back there.
Right, so that's my cat as well. There we are. We've got all the gags here.
Thank you so much for tuning in again. We are so grateful and we hope you guys are enjoying. Make sure to give it a like and also subscribe if you guys are interested. Yes.
And let us know what you think. And if you've got any questions, we'll try and answer them for you in the next episode.
Any constructive criticism as well. If you think there's anything we could be doing better, please let us know. We're welcoming to constructive criticism, aren't we, Lou?
Yeah, just be nice. Because we're very sensitive.
Emphasis on the constructive. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye. Bye.